Hey, and we're back working on Theory Workbook Level 1A. This is pages 13 to 16. Starting on page 13, a lot of this is about counting, counting four times specifically, right? So the example at the top talks about rhythmic elements, especially this 4/4. So when you read this, just remember it's like reading a fraction. So it's 4 quarters. So every measure should have 4 quarter notes in it. So just like we see here, there's 4 of them, or something that adds up to 4. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. So what they're having you do is write in these counting numbers for each measure. So every measure, as you can see, starts with 1. Whatever happens on that first beat, it could be a note, it could be a long note, it could be a rest, but that is your first beat. If that lasts for 1 beat, then the next one's the second beat, and the third beat, fourth beat. If you start with a 1 and then the note or the rest is 2 beats long, it's 1 and 2, right? And then 3, 4. So it's pretty simple, but just make sure you start with 1. Some people try to get creative. That doesn't work out. So at the bottom of the page, so this is where they want you to just write in counts, right? Write the counting numbers. So like we said, every measure starts with 1, and then you have 2, 3, 4. So it's pretty simple. Just remember again, whatever happens there, start with a 1. So if you said, if you got to the end of a measure and you said that was the third beat and this was the fourth beat, then something happened wrong. So you should get up to 4. The next one's a 1 and the 2, right? Because it's 2 counts, then the 3, 4, right? So this page is not hard. I think that will all make sense because it's very similar. It doesn't matter what clef you're in. That's bass clef, that's treble clef. That doesn't matter. It's still 4 counts, no matter the notes or whatever else happens. All right, on to page 14. Similarly, they say add bar lines to the examples below to divide the music into measures of 4 counts each, then write in the counts. Then can you name this children's song? If you can't name it, not a big deal. Go ahead and write the numbers and then see if you can play it. It's not not a hard piece to play, but if you don't know it, it's not a big deal. So same idea. We've got, that's the fourth beat. This is a 1, a 2, a 3, and the fourth beat, right? Because that's 2 counts. And then you just want to add bar lines, right? So it's just dividing all these notes up into 4 total counts. And then you start again, 1, 2, 3, 4, bar line. Right, and as you get to the end of the line, just make sure you still have 4 beats. If you end up with 3 or 5 or something, then something else went wrong. All right, so just take a look for those. Same thing as you go through this page. In treble clef, again, look for places you need to add bar lines. They often give you a bigger space, so you can see it should go right in there. So if you count along and you encounter too small a space, then go back and double check. Same with the bass clef stuff here. You're counting and adding bar lines, right? And at the bottom, similar. This one's kind of, the bottom line is just a little funnier. It's the same idea, but here's your first beat, second beat. Sometimes the third beat is held instead, and the fourth beat. But it's all basically the same thing. Add the bar line. All right, and feel free to play any of these little tunes in here. Some of them you might know, some of you might not, but that's all right. Page 15, this is all about rests, which we already know them pretty well. Here you're just writing how many counts each one is. If you forget, you can go ahead and look up here, right? Quarter rest, half rest, whole rest. So they just want to know how many beats each one is worth. And then draw them, right? And they should look pretty much like this. The half rest looks like a little hat. Whole rest looks like a hole in the ground or an upside down hat, right? And this is like a little lightning strike. So you don't have to shade it exactly the same way. So if you're drawing a quarter rest, as long as it looks something like that, then you're good. All right. At the bottom, write the counts below the following example. Notice that on the staff, the half rest sits on top of the third line. That's important. Just make sure it's in the right place. And the whole rest hangs from the fourth line. So if you can see that whole rest is under here. Basically, everything happens in the third space, right? This is under the fourth line. The half rest, it's in that same space, but it's sitting on top of the third line. Okay. So you don't have to draw them yet. They're just pointing it out. What you're doing is writing counts. So this is a whole rest. That means the whole measure is rested. So it's just 1, 2, 3, 4. The whole rest, they tend to write in the middle of the measure. Not a big deal. It does start at the beginning technically, but you don't have to line up that 1 with the rest itself. That doesn't matter. They just tend to place it in the center of the measure. But usually you want to put your rest signs below the rest or the note that you're referring to, like this, right? Alrighty, and then as you go to the end of the page, add bar lines and counts. So same idea, just make sure you count every note and every rest. These are all quarter, that's also a quarter rest, that's your fourth beat, put the bar line, right? All right, so hopefully that'll all make sense. All of this is 4/4 time, right? So don't get too creative with that. And then page 16 looks like this. This is just a practicing drawing treble clef and bass clef. And then this brace and that straight line, right? So just make sure they have you trace it here and then draw it here, just reproduce all of those parts, including, a lot of people forget to put that little brace in there, but that just means it's a piano part, right? So if you don't have that, then it could be any instruments playing a treble clef line and a bass clef line, right? But this brace here means piano part. This is your right hand, that's your left hand, right? So just make sure you get all that here. And then the bottom, you don't have to do anything. They're just reminding you what C position and D position look like. All right, not too hard. Let me know if you have any questions.